Ready? All right, it's 3 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Glad you're here today to join us for the Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization on Tuesday, February 14th, 2023 at 3 p.m. We'll go ahead and get started. First agenda item is approval of today's agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve. Second? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the minutes from February 14th, 2023. I would entertain a motion to approve. Thank you. A second. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. The motion carries. Next is the director's report. Chad.
Madam Chair, thank you so much. Members of the Transportation Policy Body, good afternoon. A few items to report to this body. There are a few items on grants and applications. One of them is carbon reduction program that staff presented to you last TPB meeting. And the call for projects is sent out to jurisdictions starting March 1st till May 1. That's a status update on that. And then there's also KDOT cost share application in your packets. There's a link to that. It's every spring, fall, periodically, there is a cost share program. You can explore and see potential projects for our jurisdiction. And staff is happy to help in any way in these grant applications. The next item in this report list is a TIP project status update. In your packets on page number 12, there is a table on the projects, what time they're led and when they're expected to complete, and status of all the TIP projects that are in the current Transportation Improvement Program. Let me pause a little bit before I go further. Any questions? Happy to elaborate.
And I might just make a comment. Chad mentioned in your packet, we stopped printing the entire packets just because it was such a use of paper. So we do bring some packets, I think, Ashley, if anybody needs a packet, but otherwise we just kind of count on the fact that you review the agenda packet before you come. But Ashley does have some if you need them.
Sorry about that. And so on page 11, when you get to see those, staff will be happy to elaborate and provide you additional information. Even after the meeting, when you see those, we would be happy to provide additional information or status of those projects. So that's item 3. The next item, number 4, is WAMPO Regional Innovation. This is staff is very thankful to Madam Chair and Vice Chair Troy Tabor. Both of them have this theme for this year, regional innovation. Last couple of years, our past chair, Commissioner David Dennis, had regional connections and economic development. That theme is continuing. Madam Chair and then Vice Chair Troy Tabor have recommended to staff that let's have regional innovation. And that also reminds me how our Rick Backlund is here from Federal Highway Administration. He is well aware of the new legislation that is promoting safety and innovation. So it's very well ties with the new legislation and the transportation projects as well. So in the when you have a chance, there is on page 13 there is a short blurb on how jurisdictions can contact staff and make presentations with their respective jurisdictions as to what are the most innovative projects that they have seen, and then how can the jurisdictions share with the rest of the TPB members, those types of things. So we would like to encourage this. Staff is very excited about this theme. Primarily, I think 3 years ago, when executive committee members and myself, particularly Troy, was discussing how there is this collaboration, increased cooperation between members. So this is one of the themes that was designed for our MPO to facilitate that collaboration, that cooperation, that networks, that bringing together, that unity among all jurisdictions. So that was the theme of regional connections and economic development. Now the innovation is the theme, which we all are surrounded by that theme to bring that cooperation and collaboration. On the note of innovation, the next item in the report is the statewide incentives, that is APEX program, attracting powerful economic expansion. So state has, it was in the news that, you know, in year 2022, there is Panasonic battery plant in DeSoto. Now it is Wichita area, the county, Sedgwick County, and Bel Air. They all have come together. Another example of this collaboration and cooperation on large projects. I think I'll pause here if Mayor Benaj or Commissioner Dennis or Commissioner Peter, anyone has comments on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate that. This is obviously a huge thing for the region, and we look forward to working with everybody on this. I actually was talking with our city manager yesterday about getting together with all the regional partners, Keachai, Wichita, Sedgwick County, KDOT, about the infrastructure needs that we're going to need to hit, and we're going to have to hit the ground running once this CHIPS approval happens, because they got like 2 years to get all that done, and that's a big step. And so we're excited about it, but we know it's going to be a big challenge, and we really, I mean, everybody has done a phenomenal job putting this package together where we are today, and that's fantastic. We just got to keep running. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's planned along K254 and Rock Road, the southeast corner of K254 and Rock Road. When we prioritize regional transportation projects, that's probably one of our discussions in the future. With that, Madam Chair, back to you.
Oh, thank you, just Becky. I do want to just highlight item number 4, the WAMPO Regional Innovation. That was Troy's idea. I'm really excited for him. My idea was going to be safety, and we decided that wasn't very glamorous or jazzy. So Troy just thought of that. And I think there's so many interesting projects going on all across our region right now, and so much innovation. And so I really applaud Troy for bringing the idea. So excited to see what everybody's doing and what we can steal from you from Wichita. So any comments, Troy? Oh, all right. Next is consent agenda. Kelly.
I don't know if you have any questions about this. This is the contract with PEC and their subcontractors to prepare the MTP 2050 long-range planning for WAMPO. You guys have any questions? That's why it's on the consent agenda, but. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Seeing none. Next, we do need to pass that. Oh, so we need to have a vote.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. It's my first time, so thank you for helping me. So I would entertain a motion. So moved. Second, all those in favor, aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, public comments. Is there anyone here or online who would like to make any public comments today? Right, unless I'm missing it, seeing none, we'll just keep on moving into the action items. So the first one is the federal performance measures 1, 2, and 3 targets, and it's Ashley and Alicia.
Thank you. My name is Ashley Byers, and I'm the Transportation Planning Manager here at WAMPO. And we'll go on to the next slide. All right. So performance measures or performance-based planning has been a requirement since the Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century, or MAP 21 Act, was signed into law in 2012. And it's been reaffirmed with subsequent laws. But it's all about doing performance-based planning for state DOTs and MPOs. And it's using performance management to be strategic about investment and policy decisions. And performance measures are quantitative criteria used to evaluate progress. And then targets are the benchmarks in which we evaluate progress using available data. So now I'll turn it over to Alicia and she'll go over what our action will be today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the planning rule established 3 FHWA performance measure rules, 1 FTA transit asset management and 1 FTA transit safety rule. And these performance measures assess highway performance or highway safety, pavement and bridge conditions, system performance and freight movement, transit asset management, and transit safety and system reliability. With regards to coordination at the state level, KDOT and MPOs must coordinate when they're selecting PM1, 2, and 3 targets. Public transit providers must coordinate with the states and MPOs when they're setting their transit asset management targets and safety targets. As a note today, we are just going to be focusing on the PM1, 2, and 3 targets. Let's take a look at what those targets are. So for the process for setting targets, MPOs have 2 options. They can adopt the statewide targets or they can establish their own specific targets. And regardless of which option MPOs choose, they have 180 days to set their targets from when the state DOTs set their performance targets. And so KDOT has shared their targets with WAMPO, and based on their dates that they've shared it with us, WAMPO has until July 6th and July 16th respectively for us to update performance 1, 2, and 3 targets. And so in coordination with KDOT, WAMPO has chosen to adopt and support the targets set for PM1, 2, and 3. So let's take a look at those specifically. So here we have PM1, which is highway safety. And these targets are required to be updated annually. And the table shows that shows targets what they were in 2022 and then the new 2023 targets. And it should be clarified that even though FHWA refers to setting performance targets and performance measures, when it comes to highway safety, targets by any means are not a representation of like a goal to achieve, but they represent a cap or a number to which you don't want to exceed. But looking back at this table, we can see that the target for the number of fatalities and number of serious injuries has slightly decreased from 22 to 23. And we'll take a look at PM2, which is pavement and bridge conditions. These targets are set and reported on a biannual basis. So KDOT has set PM2 targets for 2024 and 2026. We can see the target for the percent of interstate pavement in good condition has decreased. And while the targets for percent of non-state NHS pavement in good condition has increased. Lastly, we have PM3, and these are system performance targets. And just like PM2 targets, they are set biennial, and we have 2024 and 2026 targets set here. And we can see that for the percent of person miles traveled on interstate and non-interstate NHS has slightly decreased. And so that's kind of a quick cover of what the PM1, 2, and 3 targets are. And after final approval from TPB, WAMPO will incorporate, reference, and support the adopted targets into our transportation planning process. In an upcoming meeting, WAMPO will be back to propose the TAM targets and the transit safety targets. And so with that, are there any questions?
Any questions for Alicia? All right, thank you very much. Great job. And so it looks like we have the option to approve the PM1, 2, 3 targets as presented, or we can not approve, or we can approve with specific changes. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve that.
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alicia and Ashley. Next is the 2023 Unified Planning Work Program Amendment 1, and it's Ashley and Chad.
Thank you. So the UPWP is the short acronym for the Unified Planning Work Program. And this is really just our budget for the calendar year. And we developed the 2023 UPWP last year. It was approved in December, but we needed to make some adjustments to reflect some things that we're working on, including working on developing the Greater Wichita Bike Map. Was developed, I think, in 2016, so we're updating it. And then going to be working with the Bike Walk Wichita in order to get it printed using a grant that they obtained. We added that WAMPO will be hosting Campo, which is the Kansas Association of MPOs. That will be in April. We adjusted the budget to say we'd like to hire 2 full-time employees, add a video consultant, and have a separate line items for computers. And then, of course, we had to update the anticipated expenditures based on the budget changes. So this required a 15-day public comment period, which was February 15 through March 2nd. We did not receive any public comments. And this document is composed of the Comprehensive Planning Grant Funding, or CPG funding, which requires a 20% local match from you all. And if the amendment is approved, the CPG expenditures in this UPWP would total just about $2.6 million. The action options are to approve as presented, not approve, or approve with specific changes. And we are recommending approving as presented. Are there any questions?
Yes, Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Is there money in the budget for an app rather than just printing of the map?
Oh,
That's a good question.
potentially, yeah, we could look into that.
Just think more active users on bicycles would probably prefer
Yeah,
an app rather than a printed map while they're trying to navigate handlebars and potholes.
true, yeah. We can definitely put it on ArcGIS Online, and then people could access that interactive map on their phone. As far as an app itself, we'd have to look into that.
Just some kind of digital version of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Good question.
That sounds great. We will explore the cost of it, and then we'll be sure to include there's another amendment
Yes.
coming soon. And then we'll do that, council member.
Any other questions or comments? I did just want to mention that Campo is April 7th. It's on a Friday, and KDOT asked WAMPO to be the host this year. So you all are still putting together the agenda, right?
Correct.
And I think Troy and I are going to try and stop by and maybe provide some comments or do whatever we want to do, right? So we'll be there. What'd you say? Photo op, right? Dynamic duo. So thank you for being willing to add that to your already busy plate. So appreciate that. If I don't see any other questions, I would entertain a motion. Come on, Dan.
Move to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Fantastic. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the motion does carry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to discussion updates. The first is the appointments of the executive committee and the project selection committee. So Ashley and Chad and Troy and I had an opportunity to meet in your packet on page 24 if you want to go back and look at it, and all the contact infos here if you need it. But the 2023 WAMPO Executive Committee will be, I'll be representing as chair, and also the city of Wichita. Troy Tabor will be the vice chair. Russ Kessler will be our TAC chair. We're excited. Pete Meitzner will be Commissioner Meitzner will be representing Sedgwick County. Dan Wojak will be Butler County, and KDOT will be Tom Hine. And then Commissioner David Dennis will be ex officio as our past president. Also then for the 2023 project selection committee, it will be Dan Wojak from Butler County, Russ Kessler again from TAC, Lynn Packer with Sedgwick County, Dan Squires with Derby, James Wagner, City of Wichita, Ann Stevens from Bel Air, and Raven Alexander will represent Wichita Transit. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes, Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. And this may be more a question for Kelly. I know in our packet on page 22, it says no more than one representative from any one jurisdiction may participate. And I know Commissioner Dennis is the ex officio, but with Commissioner Meitzner on it, does that violate that?
No, I think that's referring to the actual people who can vote. And the requirements are there has to be someone from the city of Wichita and someone from Sedgwick County on the executive committee can vote. Commissioner Dennis will be the ex officio and non-voting at that point. So that's okay.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on it. Thank you.
Thank you for the good question. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you to everyone for your willingness to serve. I know everybody's already really busy and has lots of other commitments, so looking forward to a great 2023 with lots of good content experts. Next, item B is Safe Systems Approach, Safe Road Users with Chris with KDOT.
Little wave if everybody can hear me. I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah, yes, we can hear you, Chris.
Okay, that sounds great. Appreciate you having me here today. We're here to talk about behavioral safety and kind of what the Behavioral Safety Office does here at KDOT. And I'm actually presenting for Gary Herman. He's out of the office today, so they've kind of tagged me with doing this, but I have 20 plus years in the behavioral safety unit and over 20 years experience here at KDOT. So let's go to the next slide. So one of the things that you're going to start seeing more of is this new logo that we entertained one of our media consultants to do this for us. We used to have just strictly a drive to zero. So we've added the Kansas traffic deaths and then kind of incorporated a speedometer there that you can kind of see on the right, outlined with the Kansas logo. So a lot of things that you're going to see out of not only the Behavioral Safety Office, but out of KDOT, and then out of what we have a commission called the Drive to Zero Coalition, are going to be tagged with this. So I think we're all in that mode of we want to see zero traffic deaths, and we're going to talk about behavioral safety as it relates to that today. So next slide. So as referenced earlier too, there were a few changes in the most recent, the bill, the bipartisan infrastructure law, and they really tried to focus on the safe system approach to traffic safety. And there's 5 legs to that. And we're going to take a quick highlight of those legs, but we're once again really going to focus on the safer drivers. So next slide. So as referenced, the safe system approach, data-driven, holistic, and equitable. I mean, those are some of the things. The equitable is a new portion versus what we've done in the past, but we've always been data-driven. We look at crash stats all day. We do an observational survey that actually looks at seatbelt use, so people as they're driving down the road. We look at driver distraction and different things like that. So once again, data-driven has always been a huge part of what we do. As referenced, the safe system approach has 5 elements: safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, and post-crash care. And we're going to talk a little bit about each one of those, but mainly we're going to be focusing on the safe road users. So next slide. So here is the kind of the pie chart, if you want to call it, that federal highway and as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law they've come out with that pretty much outlines those things. So the key I would look at here is it takes all 5 of these to really be on the same page, doing a lot of the same things to get us to zero. So, and there's not one bigger than another, but once again, we're gonna have to work in all of those areas to be able to get to zero. Next slide. So safe system approach. Affirms safety is proactive and responsibility is shared. You know, when we look at a lot of things, we used to be a little bit more reactive than proactive. I think this is really going to push us in the right direction to look at the data we have. And, you know, maybe we haven't had a fatality on a particular route or an intersection or a segment or something like that, but we've had a bunch of serious crashes. So maybe we need to be a little bit more proactive to think about that prior to when that fatality happens. I like the fact that it challenges everybody. So when you think about that safe system and think about the 5 groups involved, it's going to take a holistic approach. It's going to take everybody involved, and we cannot accept fatalities and serious injuries as just consequence of mobility. I will tell you that fatalities are somewhat random. They're a little bit hard to look at, but when you start incorporating fatalities and suspected serious injuries or serious injuries, you'll kind of see maybe some patterns out there. And once again, we want to try and be proactive in looking at that. You know, we've often said that, you know, we accept that somebody's been killed or seriously injured. We can't do that anymore. We've really got to think differently. We've got to be more proactive. I know I just referenced that, you know, fatalities are random, but there's typically something tied to something that happened in the past that maybe could give us an indication on maybe some things that we can do better. We've often talked about in the past, and I have to be honest, I'm a little bit guilty of this. We've looked at, about 95% of crashes are typically due to driver error. However, we've got to start thinking broader in that how can we do things to prevent that, even if a mistake does happen. So once again, if you think about the 5 pillars of the safe system, it's really going to take all of us to get down that path. Okay. This kind of piggybacks on the last bullet that I was talking about. In a case where a crash can't be prevented, the energy that dictates the injury severity when possible should be mitigated to improve survivability outcomes. Probably one of the biggest things that really jumps out at me when I think about this is speeding. And how can we potentially reduce some of that? Do we have the right post-crash care? Is the right EMS in place? Do we have the safest vehicles out there? And we certainly know that the manufacturers are putting more safe vehicles out there too. So it's really important to encompass all of those. And the last bullet here, safe system provides equitable, timely, and appropriate care. All things that, we all strive for. We want it yesterday, and we want to do things like that. But going down this approach, I think, is really going to push us in that direction even more. Next slide. This is probably a campaign I'm sure many in the office are familiar with. We started this, we've been doing it about a year now, I would guess. The Drive Safe Sedgwick, we looked at crash data from Sedgwick County, compared it to not only Johnson here in the state, but we looked at some other larger metropolitan areas in the area, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Des Moines, Omaha. I think we even brought in like Madison, Wisconsin. And the fatality numbers were just kind of high. Higher than those other areas. And so we've been working with a lot of the mainly sports venues down there and some other groups, and we've come up with this Fans with the Plan. And so you're still going to see, pardon me, you're still going to see billboards, you're still going to see social media, you're going to see signage at some of these events, potentially some radio. And then along with, we've been working with the law enforcement down there too, that they can help support the efforts that we are trying to do. So I think the program's gone pretty well. We're probably still a little bit early to evaluate it completely, but we're excited with some of the feedback we've been getting down there in that area. Next slide. So the behavioral safety section, go ahead and go to the next one. The goal here is stop all crashes and fatalities in Kansas by doing behavioral traffic safety countermeasures throughout the state. I referenced several of those a little bit earlier. So, utilizing media outlets, whether that be social media, radio, TV, press events, and lots of different things like that. So once again, educational message to the public. We also have the Kansas Traffic Safety Resource Office. They're pretty much they're a contractor of ours, and they handle distribution of brochures. They can do presentations across the state when it comes to traffic safety or behavioral safety. It just saves us from having less windshield time coming out of Topeka. Once again, I referenced using data to make problem identification. It is huge when you look at the amount of data that we have and the good decisions that we can make with targeting a lot of that information. Also referenced overtime with law enforcement. It's a huge player in what we do. Hold on a second. Way too much fun for one day. So we have a lot of great partners across the state, probably between 150 and 170 agencies that participate with us, whether on small mobilizations or larger ones, like the one we're getting ready to do for 420. It's going to come up here in the middle of April, and then click it or ticket that we typically do around the Memorial Day holiday. So law enforcement's a great partner in helping us change behavior. Using the safe system approach to transportation safety. Once again, I'm going back to that holistic thought process. It's going to take all 5 legs of that to make a difference. Next slide. Simply put, mission is to stop the next crash from occurring. Nobody wants to be in a crash, but if we can get people to do the right things behind the wheel, follow the rules of the road, get everybody on board with the same thing, I think we'll be able to make a difference. Next slide. So I referenced earlier the behavioral safety section here at KDOT. Gary Herman is actually the manager. There's 4 program consultants or behavioral safety consultants, as we call them also. Amy Simshanka, she handles mostly law enforcement grants. Noel Schneider really focuses on impaired driving grants and countermeasures. Robin Meinhold handles our 2 media contractors. We have a mass media contractor, and then we also have a venue specific media contractor. And then Maura Fitzgerald, probably the biggest thing that she's doing is she's handling the SAFE program, which is our high school teen driving program, and then also the Kansas Traffic Safety Resource Office. Their main role is to administer those grants and then get the folks out there doing the things that we're talking about. Next slide. So also under contract in the state, we have 4, and they're called law enforcement liaisons. We have Dan Kaiser, pretty much handles Southeast Kansas, and we're going to show you a map here in a little bit as far as where their problem, where their reach is. Actually, Dan is actually retired from the Wichita PD. We also have Troy Wells. He's retired from Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office. He handles mainly Southwest Kansas, along with Sedgwick County. We have Bob Hamilton. Unfortunately, he's getting ready to retire here in a couple months, but he's been with us for many, many years. He handles Northeast Kansas, and he's actually retired from the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. And then we have Al Ackerman. He's retired from the Kansas Highway Patrol, and Al does Northwest Kansas. We also have under contract a traffic safety resource prosecutor. His name is Corey Kinney. He actually works out of the Attorney General's office, and he does a lot of training with prosecutors and law enforcement across the state. With, I would say, 95% of his job is focused on impaired driving. I referenced earlier, we have the Kansas Traffic Safety Resource Office, the KTSRO. If you're interested to see more on what they do, actually, it's just ktsro.org. You can go out to their website and see all the different things that they offer. Some of the bigger things that we also have going on board is we have what's called the breath alcohol unit with Kansas Highway Patrol. That's fully funded under us. And once again, they're focused on impaired driving, mainly on the alcohol side. The RAVE unit, roving aggressive violation enforcement, that's also with the Kansas Highway Patrol. They can go across the state and they can do enforcements on their own, or we really encourage them when available is partnering with the locals. So you really get a nice saturation patrol in those areas. And then one of the other contracts we have is Dan Schulte. He's our data research consultant. Dan has been doing traffic safety data research for probably 30 plus years and does an excellent job of explaining what the data says and providing visuals for us to help us form problem identification. Next. So I referenced earlier our law enforcement liaisons. This is the map of where they are. As you can see, pretty much if you take the state and divide it in quarters, that's about what their reach is. So we're actually also unique too, in that I don't know that many states have as many law enforcement liaisons as we do. And they're all excellent assets out there. Actually, I referenced earlier, we actually were just at a law enforcement recruitment luncheon in Olathe earlier today. And so they do those in the spring where they not only recruit law enforcement, but we also thank them for their role in helping us get to drive to zero. So, but once again, it's just a regional map or to show where they're located along with their contact information. Next slide. This was actually from a campaign that we did talking about speeding. It was actually on K10, which I don't know if everybody's familiar, but that's pretty much between Lawrence and Kansas City. And it was really on speeding. And so this was kind of a unique ad that we had done during that campaign. It ran for about 3 years, really trying to reduce speeding on that. Honestly, it's a commuter corridor. And so I think the campaign did pretty well from an advertising perspective, from an education perspective, and we also had law enforcement all along there that helped us out too. So we think we were able to make some pretty good strides with that. And that was about 3 or 4 years ago we did that. Next slide. This is a reminder of we bought motorcycle units. I think we bought 16 of them for the Wichita PD. We're probably pushing 5 or 6 years ago since I think we made that initial purchase. We do our best to educate and then enforce. And so once again, it's never totally about the enforcement, but it's about educate first and then enforce. And so once again, this is just an example of one of the partnerships that we've had, certainly in your area. Next slide. This was from one of the ads we did several years ago. Once again, we try and be creative. I mentioned that we have an ad campaign or an ad company that does our ads for us. You've probably seen some of the ones airing down in the Wichita area, the front seat interviews, like we like to call them, where we kind of get the everyday person, or we can kind of go out and do stuff like this to try and get that message across that this one's certainly targeting impaired driving, but we do for belts, and we're also getting into drugged driving because we know we've got a lot of people out there who are on whether it be illegal drugs, or even if you want to go down the path of prescription drugs that shouldn't be operating a vehicle too. So we work with our law enforcement across the state to do lots of different things. Next slide. You can skip by that one. That was a Gary inserted slide. I'm still not sure where he's going with that one. So go ahead and go to the next one. I know this one is a little bit dated, but we also do an impaired driving prosecutor seminar. We do it pretty much in October every year. It's usually down in the Wichita area. And I think last year we probably, had over 200 participants. Once again, law enforcement and prosecutors. 2-day event, very well attended. Everybody, and we try to bring in some national speakers to talk about, what's going on in other states, or things that maybe that we can do, or we can enhance the efforts that we have to tackle impaired driving. This one's actually put on by the Kansas Highway Patrol Breath Alcohol Unit. They put on this conference, but once again, it's funding through us, and it just really shows those partnerships. Next slide. This was another summit that we did. We actually brought in a whole bunch of national experts. It was only one day, very well attended. Lots of people wanted to hear more information on that. We're actually planning a small little, it's called a toxicology. One day, it's only about 25 or 30 people, but it's really going to focus on, what the labs are doing, what we can do, maybe new instruments, or other things that we can do to tackle impaired driving. But like I said, this is just another example of something that we did. And before we go to the next slide, I do want to reference to, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, AAA is one of our great partners. They help us in a lot of different ways. They're typically standing there side by side with us when we're talking about traffic safety, talking about reducing crashes, and talking about reducing fatalities. So once again, they are a tremendous partner of ours. Next slide. This was just an example of another ad that we did. Once again, we know that marijuana, even though it's illegal in the state, people are getting behind the wheel impaired. I referenced earlier too, we're actually going to be partnering with many other states across the country on the 420 campaign. We're going to have lots of education out there, and we know we're going to have some law enforcement partners across the state. So it's kind of our way to get ahead of something that we already know is here. Even though it's not legal in the state, we know it exists. We know there's people doing it. And unfortunately, we know there's people getting behind the wheel. So we're trying to be as proactive as we can down this path. Next slide. I love how Gary put this one in there. We always talk about unique partnerships, and I'm not sure anybody would have ever thought about us partnering with Miss Kansas. We're probably in year 6 or 7 of partnering with her. It actually started with an individual, and her main focus was don't text and drive. And so she came to us and really wanted to do some different things. We actually hooked her up with our SAFE program, which I referenced earlier. It stands for Seatbelts Are For Everyone, our teen driving program. And so we felt it was really important. It was a passion that she had. We've continued on because it's only 1-year terms for Miss Kansas, but we've continued on, and we still really kept her focus on talking to the teens. It's probably better for the teens to hear somebody that's a lot closer to their age demographic from the other guy that's on the picture right here. So it's been a unique partnership, it's been a great partnership, and I'm hopeful it'll continue down the road. Next slide. So once again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. I don't know if I have opportunities for questions. You can email me, or you can email Gary Herman. Gary, I probably should have put his slide deck up here, but it's just gary.herman@ksdot.org. Or you can email me chris.bortz@ks.gov. So once again, we're happy to help. We have a plethora of experience. Actually, I should reference too, Gary's retired law enforcement as well. He worked for the Topeka Police Department for many, many years and came on board with us. I think he's been on board for 8 or 9 years now too. And we're happy to have him leading that section here at KDOT. So Ashley, did I stay in time, or am I out of control, or what's going on here?
Thank you very much for the presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, looks like you're ready.
Actually, not a question, but a couple comments. Chris, hey, Chris, Rick Backlund here. I just want to first off
Hey, Rick.
commend KDOT for all the work they've done over the last few years. I know going back to when the previous Secretary Julie Lorenz had just come on board. I know myself and Susan DeCourcy from NHTSA came over and met with her, and I can tell you it's been a lot of work that KDOT's done. They revamped the Executive Safety Committee from to be more proactive and decision-making, more engaged. KDOT has filled a lot of positions, has really been working hard to make meaningful progress in this. So kudos to KDOT, and thank you, Chris, for your presentation. One of the things Chris talked about with the safe system approach, when I think it's rural sea change, is in the past, we would build and design our roads and then expect the public to adhere to everything 100%, and then they crash and have fatalities, and we like, oh, well, we'll try to get them to adjust their behavior. And I think that's where a real sea change with this whole safe system approach is, no, it's turning that on a 180, and it's saying it's not necessarily the design, it's not necessarily the driver. How about our design? I mean, folks are driving while they're living with all sorts of life stresses. So how do we design the road to more accommodate that? And that's the tough call. And that's the road we're on, is how do we design our roads to accommodate that people are multiply distracted. They've got competing priorities, and yet here's the road and they're all trying to use it. So that's the challenge. That's where I see KDOT bringing all these resources. That's where we're bringing resources, and we're working with the locals. So I just thought I'd add a little bit of perspective on that. We're really on a road forward. And I would just say one other quick thing. We're one of the few states, I believe, in the country where we actually saw a reduction in fatalities. And I think, you know, our enhanced enforcement program and a lot of these measures are starting to get us in a good direction. So I'm not sure folks are aware of that, but thanks again,
So-
Chris.
No, I
Yes, go
appreciate that, Rick. And let me highlight a couple of things. So, I mean, you did reference, we were down, at least at this point, 12 fatalities from the state of Kansas from last year. So actually, if when you look at 21 compared to 22, we're obviously still very early in 23. But yeah, I would echo, I don't have all of the states in front of me, but I would echo that we're probably one of the few that did see a reduction. And actually, we do update our fatality number, at least unofficially from what we know, every week. And we put that on our website too. It's actually the fourth slide in the very top of our website. As of today, and I caution, we're very early in the cycle, we're actually down about 15%. Which is a great thing. But once again, we're very early in the cycle. We certainly hope we can continue, if not maybe see increases in that. And the other thing, Rick, I probably failed to mention, the support that we've gotten from our front office has been tremendous over the last several years. And that's one of the reasons we've been able to make a lot of the huge strides that we have. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that, but thank you.
And just one quick plug, because the Transportation Safety Conference is going to be held where?
We're going to be in Wichita. I appreciate that. I probably should have put that slide on here. We're actually going to be April 25th and 26th, and we're going to be at the Hyatt. It's a very small registration fee. We would love to have people attend. We run all day Tuesday, and then we'll typically going to be out of there by 1:30 or 2 o'clock on Wednesday. 4 tracks. So there is a youth track. We have an engineering track. We have a law enforcement track, and then kind of an injury control track. So there's lots of different disciplines, and we've got a lot of great speakers lined up for the Transportation Safety Conference. It's an annual conference too. I think we're in 28 or 29. Pardon me, I don't have the number right in front of me, but we do it every year. Every other year, we typically end up in Wichita too. So we'd love to have more people attend, more than welcome to attend. If you need information, let me know.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you very much for the discussion. I appreciate it. And I do appreciate the fact that you included not only alcohol, but other drugs that are causing impaired driving. I had the opportunity to have dinner the other night with Tony Mativi, who's the new director of KBI, and with Mark Bennett, our district attorney. And one of the major things they talked about during the evening is the difficulty in identifying whether or not someone is impaired due to drugs of any kind, either marijuana or any of methamphetamines or fentanyl and so forth, because it's going to take some kind of a chemical test You can't just blow into something until if it's 0.08 or greater. So that's something we're going to have to look at in the future of how we're going to identify impaired drivers in a timely manner. And we can't even prosecute them until it goes through some type of lab testing for blood or urine or something else. So the delay on it is extensive also. So it's something, if we're worried about safe roads, we're going to have to start worrying more about how we identify drivers that are impaired for other things besides alcohol.
No, and that's a great point. We're also fortunate in that we have about 90, and they're called drug recognition experts. And they are trained in telling, pretty much what somebody's on. They've made a reasonable stop, once again, maybe they're speeding, maybe they're not maintaining their range or things like that. But whether the DRE makes the stop or whether they call somebody in, we're also delving into oral fluids. So a potential roadside oral fluids test. We're very early in a pilot phase from that, but it's to address that specific issue that we know drug driving is out there. What tools do we have in place for our law enforcement, prosecutors, and the labs, as you mentioned, to be able to help us make a difference there? Great point.
Great comment. Any other comments or questions? Thank you for the presentation. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and effort. Thanks for being here today.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chad with the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan Data Analysis and Transportation Safety Technical Advisors Meeting highlights. I can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a good segue what Chris Boards has mentioned. Chris Boards and Vanessa's partner at KDOT had done a great job in developing these strategies for safety. And so WAMPO staff in this item would like to update you the status of the study that this study culminates to Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. It's also abbreviated as CSAP, as Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. Just want to give a quick update on the status of this. We are working very closely with Chris Boards and Vanessa's partner as well at the KDOT. And last meeting, what's called as Transportation Safety Technical Advisors. This committee is called as TSTA, Transportation Safety Technical Advisors. That meeting occurred in January 25, the date January 25, 2023, a couple months ago. And the next meeting is March 28 this month. That's a second meeting. In the first meeting, all what Chris has mentioned today was discussed, like what is safe system approach? How do we design the roadway, keeping in mind the behavior of the driver? All of this was discussed there. And I'm glad Chris had the highlights for you. He just got the cream and the best of what all were discussed at that meeting. The consulting firm was also very knowledgeable about what were all the strategies that were developed in other MPOs, because these fatalities are not new to our region. These were increasing in other MPOs and other states and regions as well. So one of the nice things about this study that WAMPO staff, Ashley, myself, Nick, Alicia, and all of us are helping with this study is how the participation of City of Wichita, Derby, Hayesville, Mays, and the local jurisdictions were part of this committee. So that's what we want to report to you, how pleased staff is to see the law enforcement, Sergeant Brian Hawk from Wichita Police Department is also there. Like Chris has mentioned, how important it is to look at engineering aspects, enforcement aspects, educational aspects as well. So all of these conversations are happening. One of the things that WAMPO, this body, how it promotes this institutional approach to this safety plan is something that you're seeing through this study, through Chris' presentation, and many activities are happening. For example, how do we have the media, the Twitter and Facebook and all to communicate the safety of the communities and so on. So just want to give a quick update on, like you see, there is a link to the packet. Later on, you can see those, but I printed some of these draft data. It looks with some graphs and all I printed so that I was making sure it may not be in your packets. So I was making sure you have it. Just want to give a quick update on this data. There's so much that was looked into the types of crashes. Primarily, the causes of the crashes were something that if I boil it down our data, I would like to request page 19. The emphasis areas is figure 17 on page 19 is something I would like to request your attention. I would like to also mention how the consulting firm has, categorized the emphasis areas or the causes of crashes like distracted driving, alcohol and drug related, roadway departure related, unrestrained occupant related like seat belts, without seat belts, so on. So, to make sure how much we focus our resources and so on, how we develop the countermeasures and strategies, data-driven approach. These were also shared with our KDOT partners. So WAMPO staff is working on this plan development. We are pleased to see how there's one voice and also see the strategies that were developed statewide, region, as well as local. And, so that's where this is, the status of the study is. There's one other thing I would like to share with you is, this is well known to our Rick Backlund and Mike Moriarty and Cecily also, that how this new legislation, this bipartisan infrastructure law, how this new legislation has higher probability of grant application for CSAP. So there are many grants that we have seen, but if you look at all of those, what has the highest probability of having grant approved is the CSAP grant. So that's one of the reasons why staff is embarked upon this study early on, as soon as possible when this legislation is known. I think next slide, I will go to the next slide. So primarily, it may be on the previous slide, but I just want to summarize without taking too much time because Chris already covered most of it. One of the things that that's happening with the CSAP is the collaboration and cooperation. Again, this goes back to Federal Highway Administration requirements, how transportation planning process needs to be cooperative, continuous, and comprehensive. So there is a lot of collaboration that's happening through this study, CSAP, both through the local governments and local jurisdictions, as well as the state. And then how does it benefit individual jurisdictions? Because the way it helps the individual jurisdiction is these strategies that were developed can be implemented. What are the steps that are taken towards driving towards zero? Those types of things. And then, of course, grants and funding are working together and leveraging networks at MPO. MPO is a platform where these networks are developed. And these networks and collaboration helps in grants and funding during the implementation of the safety plan. So that's all overall. And at this time, I also want to mention, since Rick Backlund and Cecily are here, they have scheduled a MPO certification process in the month 11th with the staff to go through various planning process and so on as well. So with that, happy to elaborate. And Ashley is here, Nick is here, Alicia, myself, we all are here to elaborate anything. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions for Chad? Yes, Rick.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate that detailed walkthrough. With regard to the safety plan that you're developing, and I know this is the first part, I believe, because this is data mining, and it may be the first time the TPB has seen this. When you talk about collaboration, okay, will there be public outreach or agency outreach to vet this? That's the first question. And the second is, when are you expecting to have a draft ready? in the future.
Thank you, Rick. Let me also request Ashley to update on the TSTA next meeting as well.
So I guess first, there was a public survey that was available. It closed on March 8th and it was all about safety culture. And the consultants are reviewing the study now, or the survey results. The next Transportation Safety Technical Advisory Committee is on March, what'd you say, 25th, 28th? Yeah,
Not
and
sure.
so at that time, the group will review all of the crash data that you have in front of you, as well as the survey results to try to decide what emphasis areas we want to concentrate on, which was, I think it's the next slide. Yeah. And our hope is to have this whole CSAP plan finished by August, September, so we can apply for the next round of Safe Streets for All grants, assuming it's on the same timeline as last year where it was due in September. If it's not on that timeline, then we'll have to adjust.
Thank you, Ashley. And, for the safety grant for, let's say, City of Wichita wants to apply for the safety grant, it needs a CSAP as a requirement for the grant. So that's one of the reasons this will help Wichita, Derby, Sedgwick County to utilize the CSAP as a requirement for the grant application as well. That was another reason. Rick, did we answer all your questions? We had several video clips on the Facebook and Twitter as well as, Safe Wichita.
That's fine. I appreciate it. Sorry, I'm not able to be in every process. So for the certification review, I will actually be in Washington that week, but I know that Cecily will be here, my community planner and FTAs. Thank you.
I did forget, we will be having a public meeting for this whole CSAP planning process in probably April as well.
Madam President, just a thought, if I may. So since we're really focused on innovation this year, I just wonder if there would be room for innovative ideas that have been done. So case studies or examples of some of the member jurisdictions or member cities of what we've done that's been successful or even not successful that could be shared amongst us all to just kind of hear what's going on.
Great idea.
And I meant with safety. Okay.
Can't forget the safety, right? Troy?
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we will go to Dora to talk about electronic vehicle planning for WAMPO. I know that I signed up to be on the steering committee, not because I have any content expert, but I have interest. So.
Thank you, Chair. Like she said, I will be going over the EV planning process. Currently, we are starting it and we've sent an email. Well, I sent an email out to see if there's anybody that would be interested. And some people signed up and I'm still looking to finalize that group so I can get a meeting started. The EV plan will be in support of our metropolitan transportation plan, our MTP 2050, and the Charge Up Kansas NEVI plan. It will outline the steps interested entities can take to support and encourage EV adoption, address immediate infrastructure needs and long-term planning objectives. Is going to be the starting point for the private and public entities. And then, like I said, I'm in the process of getting the steering committee together. So if anybody is interested, please let me know. I will be sending out a doodle poll soon to those that have got in contact with me that are interested so we can set up a meeting. Thank you.
Any questions for Dora? And do you want to tell about this slide? I thought this was
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
These are the current EV charging stations that I found currently that are in place in the region. There's 12 of them. I know somebody mentioned at the tech meeting that there was another potential charging station in Derby, but nobody got back to me. But just let me know.
Hey, Dora, this is Allison at KDOT. There is a level 2 in Derby. It is located right off of K-15 in a shopping center across from the post office.
Okay, thank you. I was
My
like,
my
note that.
family all lives down there, so I see it often.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that the one that's here on Derby and the map that you have now? Okay, so we still have 12, not 13. All right, any questions for Dora or anybody excited to sign up for the steering committee? All right, make sure you get in touch with her. Thank you. Appreciate your efforts. Next, we're going to have Alicia talk to us about the Regional Connections Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, regional connectivity relies on efficient and accessible transportation network, and understanding these networks allows WAMPO's partnering agencies to plan for transportation projects that improve a municipalities' local quality of life and regional connection. And so because of that reliance on a transportation network, in 2011, WAMPO invited 11 of our partnering agencies to present at TBB about their regional connections. And they were invited to speak about three main themes. Excuse me, wrong slide. And the three themes were growth patterns, including in population, housing, and jobs, their transportation improvement projects that they had that were planned and ongoing, and then their plans to tie their growth patterns and their TIP projects together with the greater WAMPO region. These themes and presentations were designed to provide a framework and platform for which the representatives could outline how their cities have grown and changed through time, as well as how they interact with WAMPO, the WAMPO region economically, culturally, and in terms of transportation. And these insights and details provided during their presentations will and continue to help us have insight on the various types of interconnectedness between these municipalities. And the results of the commonalities in those presentations were put into a regional connection report. And this report relays how the communities in the WAMPO region rely on each other, share their lives, and benefit from their proximities. And through this report, WAMPO identified 4 overarching growth trends that include population, employment, residential, and transportation. So let's take a quick look at each of these 4 trend areas. The first one is the population. WAMPO cities with larger populations were invited to present, and the report does place more emphasis on these cities because there's a correlation between their population size and the strength for it to influence regional connections. However, the report does discuss all the cities within the WAMPO region and how they are connected. And when we compare the 2010 to 22 decennial census, approximately 82% of the cities in the WAMPO region experienced a population growth. The largest growth was occurring for the city of Mays, with a population increase of about 68%, and then followed by Andover with a population growth of 26%. While cities in the WAMPO region vary greatly in population size and their growth, their proximity to highway and interstates have a great deal of bearing on their regional connectedness. So beyond the changes in population size, many municipalities in the WAMPO region saw changes in their employment and industry. As new businesses take an interest in the WAMPO region, they begin to invest in these cities, and then these investments lead to, among other things, employment growth. And some notable examples of new businesses that took interest in our region was the addition of the Amazon Fulfillment Center in Park City, which has provided jobs for over 1,000 WAMPO residents and even more during their peak seasons. There's also the Sunflower Commerce Park and Industrial Park in Bel Air, which represented a unique opportunity to establish manufacturing and industrial facilities at a transportation nexus. And then there is Mays Industrial Park that was built in 2014 as full, and it features a Japanese and Germany company that employs over 100 employees. So residential and industrial growth go hand in hand as employers need employees and employees need housing. So the third growth trend is residential. Residential growth has a significant impact on the community in the region in many ways, and one of which is the need for more comprehensive and efficient transportation system. Increases in residential housing coincide with a rise in commuters who need reliable roads, paths, and trails to get to their place of business. And so WAMPO jurisdictions that presented on regional connectedness, such as Hayesville, Goddard, Mays, and Valley Center, all placed a great emphasis on their new residential development. The last and arguably most important growth trend that supports regional connectedness is transportation growth. A city's population, employment, and residential housing growth contribute to increased traffic and the need for reliable and efficient network. Regional connection and regional influence are most successful when you have a sufficient transportation network. And commuting patterns illustrate the connectivity and reliance between each city and its neighbors, all feeding each other with employees and employers. So to support the transportation needs of these commuting trips, cities must maintain and improve their transportation networks. Each jurisdiction that presented on regional connectedness discussed the significance and the desire to be more involved and connected with one another. And so that's just a brief overview of the growth trends that we have identified. And please feel free to check out our 2021 Regional Connections Report that is posted on the WAMPO website to learn more about our region. Any questions?
Thank you, Alicia. I think that's great. Great job. Thank you. I'm looking forward to looking into it even more. So thank you for all your effort on that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next is my new great friend, Jake Borchers, talking to us about K96 expansion. This is right in the middle of my district. So I've seen this presentation several times, and every time I learn a little bit more or get new information. And I know Jake's going to do a great job talking about the tremendous efforts that are really being made to get community input, which I think right now is fantastic. And I'm hearing good things from my constituents. So thanks for joining us, Jake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board. I think next time you're going to present, I think you have enough, you've heard this enough times and you can do just a great job for them. So really just wanted to give a quick update on the K96 project, where we're at and where we're headed. Really just want to start and recognize all of our project partners. A project of this size is not going to be a success without the partnerships that are ongoing. First and foremost, up at the top, it is a state of Kansas led project, led by KDOT, but very much in partnership with the city of Wichita. City of Wichita has been a great partner throughout the life of the project. At the bottom there, you see a lot of our design team. Won't go into that other than to say that we're local. We're here, we're heavily invested in the success of the project. So what is the project? Maybe I can. So we are looking to improve K96 really from I-135 all the way down to the KTA East Kellogg interchange. Maybe just point out a couple of differences than what you've seen since last fall. The project has been extended to the south. I think last time we were here, the project limits ended at 13th. We've since extended south to tie into the East Kellogg project. That's KDOT is upcoming with as well. And then we've added some additional interchange improvements throughout the corridor. We had focused on Woodlawn Rock and Webb in the past. We've since expanded that to the other interchanges you see there circled in red to really take a holistic look and improve as much of the corridor as we can with this project. So why are we doing this project? What are the project needs? Broken it again. There we go. Really looking to address that aging infrastructure that's out there. K96 has really lived its best life. It's 30+ years old. That pavement is in distress. KDOT's done a great job with some repair projects here recently to get us a few more years, but it's really time for total replacement. We just heard how infrastructure really plays a role in that local and regional growth. K96 is a shining example of that, and we need to prepare for that continued growth and put K96 in a position to help really support and continue to spur that growth, not only in Wichita, but in South Central Kansas as a whole. If you're out there on a daily basis, you see those congestion and that traffic backups. We really need to address that, improve traffic efficiency through the corridor. And obviously safety is a big concern, right? Looking to enhance the safety throughout the corridor, not only on K96, but at those interchange locations with the city streets. And we want to address all of our users. So it's not just looking at cars and trucks and freights. It's bicyclists and pedestrians and making sure that we're accommodating all their needs as well. So this is just something I like to show. This is our vision statement as a team. This is where are we going with the project? This helps keeps us grounded to say, here's what success looks like, that we are improving K96 to prepare for the demands of future growth, not just in the city and the region, and relieve that congestion and enhance the safety and reliability for all users. So at the end of the day, when we do what we talk about doing, what are the benefits for the community and the region that we've talked about? Again, we're looking to relieve that congestion by increasing capacity, making those interchange improvements, getting people to and from 96 as quickly as we can. Really, nobody wants to be stuck in traffic, right? We want to get to where we want to get to live our lives. Really, it's a quality of life issue, right? We don't want to be stuck in that traffic jam. We want to get home to our families at the end of the day. And this project is going to help us get there quicker and safer. So a real quick timeline. We started about a year ago. We've done a number of preliminary studies, gone through some preliminary design concept development, and are really starting that environmental review process right now. We started that NEPA clock earlier this month. So we have about a year, 12 months to get that wrapped up by early 2024. We talked about those preliminary designs. We're working through some of those and what those might look like. A big part of what we've been doing is community engagement, getting out into the public, hearing what those stakeholders like and want to see different along 96 and what that might look like going forward. That's going to continue throughout the life of the project. You can see here we are slated for tentative construction as early as 2026. We are funded for design only at this point through KDOT. We're not in the construction pipeline yet. As you know, with the current IKE program, that funding is not allocated more than 2 years before construction. Community open house. We had our first open house about a month ago, had great attendance. We showed our preliminary design concepts, had about 120, 130 people show up, got great feedback. Lots of good support for the project. I think the public really sees the need for improvements to 96 in the corridor. We did provide a few different interchange design concepts at some different locations, diverging diamonds, displaced left turns, a lot of support for the diverging diamond, even though it is new to the area. So here up on the screen, we have kind of a real quick summation of what the project would entail. So if I just work it west to east, obviously we're going to tie into the North Junction, all of that great work that's going on right now. And then those interchange improvements. So we're looking at diverging diamonds at a number of locations, Hillside, Oliver, Woodlawn, Rock Road, and 21st Street would all have that diverging diamond interchange layout. And we'll talk about what that looks like here in a minute. Webb Road, based on its geometry, that diverging diamond isn't going to work. So we have a different reconfiguration in that area. And then Greenwich, that interchange, a lot of improvements there in the past few years that will continue to serve well into the future. In addition to that, looking to provide auxiliary lanes between those interchanges to help get traffic on and off the freeway more efficiently. Looking to improve that signal coordination within the region, not just at the freeway locations, but throughout that area of the city as well. We talked about enhancing that transportation network, so really serving the needs of all users as well. And then looking for allowing for those future technology needs. So making sure we're set up for anything that may come as it relates to connected autonomous vehicles, electric vehicle charging, those types of things. So we talked about diverging diamonds. A quick little example here, if you're not familiar with what a diverging diamond might look like. A little orientation here. North is to the top of the screen here. This happens to be the layout at Rock Road, but this would be typical at those other locations that we talked about. You can see how that traffic would flow through the interchange, cross over at the signal, get on or off the freeway, and then cross back over which we're gonna go through. So why would we do divergent diamonds, right? A lot of people ask that question. To increase safety is first and foremost. These are much safer interchange configurations than a traditional interchange would be. We're safer and we improve traffic flows. They handle more traffic more efficiently to get people to and from the freeway quicker. And then we do actually have a narrower footprint and less impacts to properties along the corridor as well. So with all of that considered, it does have a little bit lower cost than the traditional interchange would as well. So put all that together, it's kind of a win-win-win situation here. So real quick, next steps where we're headed. We're working through continued some preliminary design, get that wrapped up later this year, back out to our second open house to get some more public feedback later this year. Talked about that NEPA process has started, anticipated to be completed next year. And again, starting construction as early as 2026. We do have a project website if you're interested. Lots of great information here and lots of ways to connect with us on the design team. We do have a project phone number, email that comes right to us on the team. You can sign up here to get project updates, regular updates. If you click on the Get Involved tab up at the top, you can provide comments on a map, comes right to us on the design team. Also there's a tab that will take you to all of the open house materials from last fall or last month. So if you weren't able to make that, all of those designs and concepts and information that was presented is available on the website as well. That was a quick overview. That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jake? Or comments? I just appreciate all your community feedback. I know you mentioned the open house and I was there and I think there was more than 125 people there, but the room was packed and lots of good discussion. It wasn't just a presentation. People had great interaction, but you've been in retail, you've been a little bit of everywhere. And if you haven't signed up yet for the information, I get the updates and it's really interesting information, but I do appreciate all of the information. Jake and I are this close to renting a bus and taking some of my residents to see a divergent time interchange in Kansas City, because a few of my people still just can't get their head around it, but I promise them it'll be okay. And it's quite a few years out, so we got some time.
We've got time.
We got some time. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I do have one question in all of the all the outreach that went on. I mean, a huge key focus area of bipartisan infrastructure law of our administration, our program is equity. And reaching out to underserved communities, minority communities, getting their perspective on their needs. I didn't hear anything mentioned at all about that. Was there any sort of specialized outreach, even multilingual outreach if needed, to communities within Wichita, those historically underserved, to make sure that their input is received and considered? Because I didn't hear anything on that.
Yeah, and I apologies for not getting into those details, but we did. We have reached out to all of those underserved communities. All of the materials are Arabic and Spanish available as well. So we've done quite a bit of outreach to be as equitable as we can to everyone.
And hopefully the report reflects some of what those needs and desires are of those communities. Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
And Jake, just to piggyback on that, I think you've also been and I know you've been because I've been in the same meetings with him, but Councilmember Brandon Johnson, who's in District 1 for the city of Wichita. And I think you've presented at his district advisory board and I think his breakfast as well, or you're going to. And so I know you've been also collaborating with him to make sure that we get some of the more unheard voices. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly correct. We've been to DAB 1. I've been to your DAB a couple times. We're headed back to DAB 1 next month and back to your DAB as well next month. So we've done it what we can. We've been out to some of the retail and shopping centers on the weekends out there to get as much feedback as we can. We've been downtown at the Advanced Learning Library to get people who are there coming in just to kind of get the biggest cross section that we can from the community.
Anything else for Jake? Excellent. Thank you.
I also understand that
please.
you're going to be at Bel Air Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, I
next
am
month, right?
remiss. We'll be up in Bel Air next month. Yes.
Yeah, nice plug. So I've chatted with Jake and I said this to Gary, our brand new City of Wichita Public Works Director. Yay. K-96 expansion, East Kellogg, North Junction, 3 magnificent infrastructure projects that will benefit Wichitans and the surrounding region for generations to come. So glad to be a part of this process. So thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Awesome. We'll next go into committee and partnership updates. Regarding the executive committee, the next executive committee meeting is May 4th. It's at 2 p.m. We moved it because we had some other commitments and wanted to make sure we accommodated the executive committee members. So it'll be at 2 p.m. It's here on the second floor in the MABD conference room. It is an open meeting. So anybody who would like to join us, please feel free to put that on your calendar and come and share any of your thoughts with the executive committee. Kristen with the Hayesville Hustle.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I will share my screen.
Oh, Kristen, we have your screen.
You do? Okay. All right, sounds good. Well, my name is Krista McDaniel. I am with the City of Hayesville. I'm the Senior Center Director, and I also oversee the Hayesville Hustle Public Transportation Service. Next slide. Not seeing. Oh, okay. Okay. So, oh, sorry. Can you go back? Okay. The mission of the Hayesville Hustle is to provide public transportation that is safe, affordable, and accessible to senior citizens, disabled citizens, and those without dependable private transportation, thereby allowing regular and consistent access to goods, services, and activities that promote a healthy and positive lifestyle. Next slide. Just a little bit of information about our program. We have a 14-passenger vehicle that is a fully equipped paratransit bus. We can accommodate the needs of the elderly and disabled. Our hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Transportation is available to all ages. We have all the way from elementary school kids up to a 95-year-old that we transport on a regular basis. Our drivers only accept pre-purchased tokens as payment. Each one-way ride is a $2 token. Next page. Our service area. All persons residing within City of Hayesville city limits are eligible to ride the bus. The rides must originate from within our pickup boundaries, which is east of Hoover, south of 55th, west of Hydraulic, and north of 95th Street. Our drop-off boundaries are a little bit further. We go up to 47th and Broadway to connect with Wichita Transit and any shopping needs up there. And then we go to 63rd and K15 in Derby, and we recently expanded to Rock Road between 63rd and Madison to help meet the needs of the medical and shopping requests that we were receiving. Next page. A little bit about the hustle statistics. We began operation November 1st of 2020, so we're still fairly new, but we have seen great growth. In 2020, we only had 31 rides. In 2021, we had 2,192. And in 2022, we had 3,316. And we're right on track to continue growing to having even higher numbers this year. Next slide. One of the things I wanted to discuss that we have had great success with is our marketing. As the Senior Center Director, I see a lot of people that come in that are just not aware of the transportation services that we all have. So I just wanted to go over some of the things that we have done to promote our program that have helped reach those people in need. So, next slide. Our top marketing method, I would say, was definitely Facebook. Our drivers go around and take photos of the bus in front of all the businesses, offices, and parks in town. Our routine posts on Facebook always include one of these photos. We have definitely learned that the adding a photo catches more people's attention. We always introduce our new staff on Facebook, and we routinely repost reminders of our hours, service boundaries, payment methods. And most of these smaller towns have group pages that we post all of our events on. Just that's been a great way for us to continue to reach the citizens that need to use the service or have family that need the service. And we also post on the City of Hayesville and the Senior Center pages. Next slide. We have a link to our website on the City of Hayesville page, and we have all of our information, our policies and procedures, contact, our boundaries, all of that information on our website. Next slide. Although downtime's not as frequent as it was at the beginning of our service, we do have downtime specifically when kids are out of school, like this week with spring break. So our driver goes around and publishes brochures for our service all throughout town, specifically hitting the medical offices, car repair shops, senior residents, and the school district, administration building, and grocery stores. Next slide. We are very fortunate to have a great community, and we participate in all of the activities that we possibly can. Some of those activities, we always have the bus in the Hayesville Fall Festival and the 4th of July parades, and the City of Hayesville trick or treat events. We like to show our support for the police department, so we have the bus at the National Night Out event. And we've had several meetings with the local parents as teachers to promote the services that we can help transport for them or take patrons to their services. Next slide. And we also have a page in each of our monthly senior center newsletters, and we try to encourage our members to use the service by doing monthly outings. We usually go out to lunch or go to the museums in Wichita. So we do something a little bit different each month. And then we also announce our new employees and milestones and anniversaries here. We like to show support and appreciation to our fantastic employees. Next slide. One thing that when we first started our service, we had our name on everything that was Hayesville Hustle paratransit service, and we did notice that changing from paratransit service to public transportation was a very simple but effective adjustment that really helped people understand that this was a service for all ages, not just for the elderly or disabled. Next slide. So our goal is just to continue providing transportation for those in our community. And one thing I would like to suggest and encourage all of you to attend the newly formed United Community Transit Coalition. That is for a coalition for Sedgwick County, Butler, and Harvey, and trying to find a way for the transportation agencies within those counties to work together. So much of the time, our patrons need transportation past what our set boundaries are. So just being able to work together to see if we can find a way to help people the most we can, since that is our overall goal. And next slide. So again, my name is Krista McDaniel, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Kristen?
And if not, and I thank you all for having me, and thank you, Ashley, for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you for presenting and thank you for the service you're providing and keeping those most in need and the vulnerable in our communities. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. You too.
Have a great day.
You too.
Next, we have Mike with KDOT.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I don't know where to start or stop with the KDOT headquarters update, so I'll opt to be as brief as possible. So we have a couple corridor studies about to kick off in the region. One is on K254, basically from El Dorado to the North Junction. The other study is on K15, basically from I-135 down through Derby. So we're excited to get those underway. Tremendous group of corridor planning partners on both corridors. We love these supports. It's easy for us to come do work when we have so many people who are interested in doing these corridor studies. Right now, we're kind of in the consultants negotiation and scoping process. So there'll be more to report on these two studies, probably next month or the month after. But again, that's kind of where we are on those two. I think the one on 254 might get a jump start with Integra. So we're ready to fast rope in and get that process going. Going to be some conversations in fairly short order about the highway improvements to support that opportunity. In addition to that, we are continuing to plan for the upcoming round of local consultation this September and October. We're going to visit each of the 6 KDOT districts, as well as one meeting in Kansas City and Wichita. We'll also have a virtual event as well. So 9 total tour stops for local consult this year. At this time, we are in the process of scheduling venues. We're preparing our staffing plan. It takes a lot of KDOT people to come out and conduct these events. We're working on our project lists as well. I was handed a draft version of our project lists, and they're extensive. They're a little messy, but we've been working with folks like Nick and his counterparts across the state to kind of boil those lists down, add in some new projects as well. So that's our internal exercise right now. We'll be back out to speak with our MPO partners as well, Chad, to talk about kind of vet those lists with you all and make sure we're capturing everything on those lists. And that's about, I think that's about it from headquarters. I can certainly stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mike? All right, thank you. It's a great time to be at KDOT, right?
It's always a great time.
Lots of fun things going on. Next, we have Nick with the Metro KDOT. Nick
It
Squires.
falls to Tom, no.
Tom, sorry, Tom. Sorry, Tom.
Okay.
My bad.
That's okay. It's so encouraging for me to come to a group that appreciates the big projects that we are doing. It's my job to inform the public of the effect of those projects during the process. And that's not always fun. It's not fun for the drivers and it's not fun for me. But I'm happy to do that. I put out a weekly report that I'm sure everyone in this room subscribes to, and anyone from the public can. Just email me, tom.hein@ks.gov, and I will put you on that until you unsubscribe. So please, if you choose to read those, great. Because there are constant closures, especially at the North Junction project. The North Junction project was huge, and we decided to kind of cut it in two and accelerate part of it. And so with the help of Sedgwick County and the City of Wichita, we were able to accelerate that, the very North Junction part at the north end. And that means that we are close, very close to opening the 2-lane flyover for northbound I-135 to southbound 235, which is the bottleneck in Wichita right now. We'll move it to a new location after that opens, but that's coming very soon, and that's very encouraging. The second part of that project, because it was so large and we cut it in half, has now started in the last month. So we are seeing more an expanded work zone on 135. It goes all the way down to 21st Street and then a little bit onto eastbound K96 east of I-135. But the end product of all this is an improved North Junction plus improvements at the I-135 and K96 interchange. So we're excited about that. We're in year 1 of 3. at that interchange, and you will see more inconveniences to drivers, unfortunately, but that is just part of the process and the painful part. And we realize that, and we try to lessen those, but it's difficult to get the job done without having some pain. And I am the messenger with the pain message, unfortunately. But this week is very slow, and that's a good thing. It's after 3 o'clock on Tuesday at this meeting, so that means this week's closures are over. But I'm sure we'll come up with some next week. It changes almost daily on these two projects, so it's a challenge, and it's a challenge for drivers. And so I try to keep them informed, and please don't shoot the messenger.
Any questions for Tom? No, please. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to pin the contractor down exactly, but this summer for sure, he says. So it could be early summer, could be late spring. I hate to put a date on it myself.
No, it's
Till
fine.
we know for sure, but
It
it's
looks
coming
like,
soon.
it looks like it's coming along. We get that question asked a lot.
Yeah.
You know, that alone is going to take care of a lot of issues with that
Right.
accelerated phase. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
The original plan was August, and he's a couple of months ahead. So if that continues, July, June, May.
I'm telling everybody Tom said May now.
That's what I'm trying to avoid.
And give him his phone number, his cell phone number.
Yeah.
And email. And Tom, when people complain to me about construction, which is quite frequent, I tell them that orange cones and cranes make me happy because it means economic development and progress, right?
Right, and
So-
increased safety and
And increased
increased efficiency with our transportation system.
Yeah, orange cones and cranes, they're a good thing. All right, thank you, Tom. Appreciate all you do. Next, we have the Federal Highway Administration. We have Rick and we have Cecily. And first time I got to meet Cecily in person because normally you're virtual. So we're so glad you're here today. Thank you.
Yes, we're all happy to have Cecily on our team as well. She's done outstanding work in planning for us over the last few years. Busy time, as Tom was talking about with projects. A lot of my engineering staff are partners working with KDOT on North Junction and East Kellogg Avenue. So there's a lot happening in the Wichita region, which is, as was mentioned, orange cones are a good thing. Been a busy month since I last saw you all. I know I had talked about our new administrator, Shaylin Bott, coming on board. Shaylin was out here. We had a US 69 express toll lanes groundbreaking event. It was held in Overland Park. Governor Kelly spoke. The previous Secretary Lorenz, our KDOT acting secretary Calvin Reed spoke, and Shaylin was there. I was there. It was a good event. We did have Secretary Pete Buttigieg out here for an event 2 weeks ago with the Panasonic plant. So we're a lot of DOT presence coming to Kansas. Safe Streets for All, it's been mentioned a few times, but there were 12 awards in Kansas, wide variety of stakeholders, including one Indian tribal nation, the Potawatomi. One of the things I wanted to mention on that is I just want folks to be aware that once you receive a US DOT grant, it's not like the money just shows up in your bank account. There's a lot that happens. There's agreements that need to happen. How those agreements will be crafted with either federal highways or working through KDOT in some examples. KDOT local programs has been part of this. There are a lot of requirements. There's NEPA, Title VI, all of this happens. So the Kansas LTAP Center in Lawrence has been providing virtual training on the Federal 8101 process. Each of these grants have different parts of these that are applicable. So I would definitely encourage you all, if you're applying for a grant or interested, transportation.gov is the department's public website, and there is a section underneath called DOT Navigator, and it will walk folks through entities that are interested in applying for a grant in the future, understand what strings there are, what the focus areas are. And as Chad has talked about earlier, you know, when you're preparing an application, it helps you guide you in terms of what the end goal is for the types of awardees we're going to have. So there are a number of tools out there. So just wanted to mention that. for the Kansas Transportation Engineering Conference coming up in April, our Associate Administrator for Infrastructure, Hari Kala, who's the equivalent of our Chief Engineer for KDOT, is going to be in Kansas. He'll be providing a keynote there and at the event. So if some of you are going to the KTAC, you'll see him there. And I'm trying to think of anything else that, you know, like I said, I won't be at the certification review, but we'll be well represented by Cecily and Federal Transit. So that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Rick? Anything to add, friend?
For those who haven't met me yet, I'm Cecily Cochran. I'm the community planner with the Federal Highway Kansas Division. We have the upcoming certification review set for May 10th through the 12th. There will be opportunities for many of you to kind of come out and speak with us while we are reviewing with the NPO and the planning process. We have to conduct this review every 4 years. WAMPO definitely has done a good job since the last review of keeping their processes right according to schedule. So we're just dotting some I's and crossing some T's, but we're very excited to come out and hopefully there will be a public comment portion. We think we're probably going to try to have it scheduled on that first day, May 10th, where members of the public can come out and speak with us if they have any questions about the transportation planning process or just our role overall. So just wanted to let you all know, come out if you like, or follow up with me. We're definitely looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. All right, so it looks like we're at the end of our meeting. It's been a great meeting. Thank you for everyone joining us today. Don't forget CAMPO is April 7th, so maybe some of our paths will cross then. We're all going to get with Dora about the Electric Vehicle Steering Committee, and the next meeting will be April 11th. Right here at 3 p.m. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? You can stay. Have a great day.